Yeah, we are live on Facebook. Boss, Sujit, can we start?
Yeah, will.
Boss, can we start?
Oh, it's up to you.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
all yours.
Thank you very much. Okay, welcome to Neat Talks 30th edition of this show, which we started during the COVID times to beat COVID throughout. Okay, and it just rolled on, and with mentorship of Sujit, we stretched it till 30. We hope to hit a century. That is the plan. Okay. And the most welcoming news is that for the 30th edition, the landmark, we have a person like Bose. Okay. Thank you very much, Bose. Thank you for accepting. And you have been, you've been always supporting such ventures. And I would like to tell all of you that today, like he decided to come here, but it is not that Bose is new to Niracharthu. Okay, he actually in the first edition of our national camp, Bose came as the chief guest, and then he did the honors to actually do the commemoration of a famous film director who hailed from our the place where this Niracharthu used to happen, called Bharathan. Okay, and some of the pictures from those days. I hope you can see this.
Yep.
Right. So that time it was like a very humble beginning. No one was knowing us. We just made a call, Mr. Vijayakumar Menon and us. And I fondly remember, he just came down all the way from Cochin amidst all his trouble and all the Binale work. Okay. So I would like to express a big thank you for that after 6 years. Okay. And these are the artists who participated in that camp. I hope some of the faces will be familiar to many of you. Okay, and some might be there here. I don't know whether Nimi has joined today. Kajal, Nimi, Sandosh, and all those. Okay, yeah. Oh, all right. This is our team when we took a group photo with him. See, all of us look so younger 5-6 years back. Okay. Okay, yeah. Now, to officially introduce him, I think, which is my honors. So he, as per his profile, is an artist and independent curator, and he lives and works between Mumbai and Cochin. Most of you know all these things. And then his diverse and artistic and curatorial practice includes contemporary art, design, and sciences. And a host of solo and group shows and the shows which he has curated. I would not dare to take the list of that. But most importantly, some of the stuff like created gallery BMP in South Mumbai with a vision to bring the best national and international art to India. And then he's the co-founder of Kochi Biennale Foundation and founding president. He was artistic director and co-curator of India's first Biennale, the Kochi Museums Biennale 2012. Director of, again, KMP 2014, 16, 18, and 20. Bose Krishnamachari curated For an Image Faster Than Light first edition of the Yinchuan Biennale in Yinchuan. That's in China. And he was a columnist. Everyone is a Camera. That was the edition for the Week magazine for 3 years. And he won many national and international fellowships and awards. He was also a jury member at the International and National Institutional Curational and Artist Awards. Bose is known for his patronage towards young Indian artists and also an educator. And with that brief introduction, I would welcome all those who have come today to this 30th edition of Neat Talks, Life and Works of Bose Krishnamachari. Thank you, Bose, for accepting. Over to you.
Thank you, Satish, for inviting Niracharthu. It's wonderful to see that always there is a kind of nostalgia when I see images like this. In my life, I have lost almost 20 kg of my photograph. When I was in London, I could not carry it back because I didn't have the funds to bring it back. So the 28 kg of memory is all these photographs, during my college days, or my travel, my friends, celebrations, studio works, etc. So all those images are vanished. So it is wonderful to see those memoirs, in some ways, that images. So thank you so much for inviting me to be part of it. Let me share you, in my life, with 30 years of my art career, in 1 hour's time, I've done quite a lot of stuff. So I don't know, this 1 hour is not enough, I know, but I try to cover it maximum. And I go through almost like a kind of marathon from one image to the other. So let me share. So you can see me, see these images, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, I was born in this globe. It's one of the, like all these Malayali people doesn't need to, or Indians doesn't need to say there where is Kochi, but I was born in a small village called Mangatukara, it's very near to, almost a 7 kilometer from the Cochin airport. So it's a beautiful village, and I was born in 1962, which means I'm 58 years old. So I was in Kerala till 1985. From 62 to 85, my entire life was roaming around in fields, doing a lot of theater works. I really wanted to be a doctor, a medical doctor, not the doctors you get PhDs. Anybody can get nowadays, that I could see. Someone says that I'm a doctor, then so anyway, so I wanted to be a medical doctor, but age of 17, I was in Sri Sankaracharya College in Kaladi. I was really sick, and I was ill for many months and years. I was almost 5 years of my youth were gone into hospitals, in and out. In between period, in and out of this hospital period at home, I used to practice theater with my younger brother and other brothers and cousin brothers and friends. Very much interested in, like politics. From the early age, I used to work as all typical Malayalis. I used to sketch or paint, for the parties. I believe in the left ways of thinking. So to do portraits of Karl Marx and all those kind of stuff. Can you just open? I don't know why it is not moving to the next frame. I hope it is not controlled by you, right?
No.
Okay.
But yeah, it's going.
All right.
Yes, yeah.
So I was acting in this play, like, very much into absurd theater. I was not really aware of what is absurd, but it was great to learn from a lot of theater people from my city, as well as from Trichur area. There were a lot of friends were, and I was really connected with those people through my younger brother, who was really into theater. So then G. Shankarapilla was known for his I don't know, somebody's trying some kind of sketches on this screen.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
it's not done by me. So Shankarapilla, and I acted in this play, Samuel Beckett's. That's why I thought I'd show Samuel Beckett's image. One of the greatest absurd theater, I learned it or acted, Estragon, the character within that Samuel Beckett's play, Waiting for Godot, and won quite a lot of awards and things like that. But I got into some kind of stage fright. I could not face public, so I given up theater. But I was very much into music, little bit of dance. I learned classical dance, etc. Um, so in this period of time, in 1984, I was reading a little magazine called Sangramanam, and there are quite a lot of magazines used to come up, like interesting writings and things like that. I got to know about a place called Kerala Kalapidam, and then I went to see that space. It is almost like a kind of institution which doesn't have a kind of structure in many ways. It's like anybody can come and work and practice, but no tutor as such. But I had a great time there because I could meet people like Shankara Pillai or Adur Gopalakrishnan to Balachandran Chullikad, Nitya Chaitanya, and many, many others, from theater people to musicians to playwrights, all kinds of people. So it was incredible time in Kerala Kalapidam. But I was not really learned much drawings or paintings from that space, but I could hear artists talk about artworks and, so those kind of things were there. Then I went to join a private institute in Tripunithura, and that it's almost like KGTA or something like that, so you learn, sketching and painting and whatever. Then also I went to study Bharatanatyam at a color teacher's place, like Kalyani Kutyama teacher taught me Abhinaya that period of time. It's only for 3 months or 6 months I stayed back for those kind of interests. So there was kind of infatuation in between these kind of music or, dance or things like that, always interested in film. So this in 84, I received an award. 85, I received an award from the Academy, 1985. That award actually changed my life in many ways. As an artist, I have sent a couple of my paintings and drawings to the Lalitala Academy exhibition in 84 and 85. I won this award, state award. And then one of my friend in Mumbai, he's from my place. His name is Jairaj Menon, very close to my home, but he was in Bombay. He asked me, why don't you come to Bombay and join in JJ School of Arts? I didn't know about JJ School of Art, or none of my friends or none of the institutional friends, nobody used to tell me about, or I was not at all aware. It is my problem that I was not really searching for it, or I was, I was looking for opportunities. And then this friend told me, why don't you come to Bombay? Then I took those period of time, 2 days of train that is called the really the famous Jayanti Janata Express. I got it, and then came to Bombay and stayed in a place called Sakinaka. It's a place called Andheri, close to, it's almost staying with 8 to 10 of the migrant workers, friends from Kerala, or relatives, or some people like that. But it was crazy to live in such a place, and in a public toilet, using in all those experiences. But I have applied for 1985. I haven't received. I mean, like I received the invitation to be. Then I appeared for the entrance test. Then interview. But interview, they said, I had a lot of drawings and paintings which I carried to show to the interview space. And then there's an artist. Later, I got to know his name. Mr. Bowlekar asked me, told me that you don't need to be here. You are already an artist, because you received the Academy Award. So that was, really disappointing moments in my life. But I really cried and but I stayed back. I didn't give up, and I stayed back, and I met with some political figures in Mumbai at that time, because it doesn't. The lines are never straight. It's always just almost like a circle or a zigzag. So I was trying to learn how to get into the college, and then I really got into the college through merit, maybe, but I'm not sure whether it was influence or merit or whatever. But I got this admission in 86, and then one of my tutor told me that, why didn't you join last year? I remember your drawing. You were the best, and you were the first. Why didn't you join? So this was the kind of answer I had to say. That period of time, I think Mumbai was, Bombay was transforming into Mumbai. So there's a kind of regionalism was really rising, and there was a kind of insecure moments in those years for many others. So JJ is also known for its academic ways of learning. Is basically those period of time, like Mr. Professor Prabhakar Kolte was the most influential figure, and or like many all we need to know, we need to paint whatever they used to ask us to do it, so that's usual with any institutions, like whether they ask me to do kanda potato, I used to do that, as good as kanda potato. And so I used to do it very fast, and like quite good, maybe skilled, which was got it from my genes, my parents' genes. I would say that I was born in a carpenter's family, or so that's a kind of craftsmanship, and or that was really, I think that skill was there to help me. But after learning all this, I learned how not to, how to erase that skill, or how negate that kind of skill of painting or sculpting on things like that. Anyway, so these are the works which I produced during my time of JJ School of Art. I remember in 1991, Mr. Reza visited JJ School of Arts. I took him around and showed, and S.H. Rasa, I'm talking about S.H. Rasa. He is one of the greatest artists I would know. So I was showing around my works at also the school. So this kind of used to organize quite a lot of programs in college as well. Like college never used to organize any kind of talks or something like that. But with the limited knowledge, I used to invite a lot of my poets friends, writers friends, like Ranjit Hoskote, Girish Shahani, Ashish Rajadasha, Masood Taj, Arundhati Subramaniam, and many others, for lectures and talks and things like that. So this was, I used to work in a restaurant for my survival, how to make, you never got any funds from your parents, or, like, of course, when you left Kerala, you got maybe, I must have received $2,000, that was the only thing I got it from my native, my parents. But like I never taken anything, I won't say never taken any single penny, but it is like so this job was interesting in a place called, it was in a place called Mela, and it is almost like it created that place. It's like you can sketch, and like 5-minute sketches of portraits. That's the time I realized this Malayali boy started learning about English, through conversations with these sketches, through sketches of public, the customers who visit the restaurant. So anyway, in 1990 is also interesting period in my career, because I first artists, or students, art students residency I attended in Bharat Bhavan, Bhopal. Swaminathan, J. Swaminathan, Jagdish Swaminathan invited for this large number of people, students from all around India. I still remember Ravi Kumar Kashi was one of the student visited, and time at receiving his Kalidas Saman, and Ashok Vajpayee and other great theater performer, so Habib Tanvir and many other figures, so it was great that period of time. And then anyway, so I have, in between period of, college, in the vacation time or the summer vacation period, in Pune Film Institute was, used to offer 1 month long, um, it's a kind of uh, residency, but I won't call it residency. We cannot call it residency, but it's a kind of appreciation course, So it was great that Adur was, also inaugurated my 18, my first solo show when I was in JJ. I created that. It was entitled, the show was entitled, but there was kind of interesting statement. I remember, there are no rules in painting, which was written by written by Ranjit Hoskote in 1991. So this is after my visit to this film institute. Film institute was great that so 1 month long, I met a lot of incredible minds, really fantastic people talking about hundreds of films, morning to late night. And that's what we used to do. And I remember a couple of portraits I have done on, this John Abraham, not the actor John Abraham, a great filmmaker, John Abraham's portrait, which was collected by, rainy day, collected by, it was raining and the poster was, so Anand Patwar then took those posters from, which I was painting that portrait with memory of, memory of John Abraham's. Anyway, it's just the kind of great time I had with the Pune Film Institute. That experience is also which I used it in some of my later projects. So I was very much interested in music and how you can create minimalistic work. And I was looking at, when you are studying, there is a book called Herbert Reed's history book. That's only one. JG School of Arts unfortunately didn't have much contemporary art book, but they had a lot of traditional, lot of old books, a lot of archival stuff was there in JG's library. But very rarely my colleagues used to go to library, and but I was very much enthusiastic to know what is inside there and all that kind of stuff. But we never had a kind of art forum or any magazines like that. Those period of time, earlier years, they used to have art and ideas, but later you could not find those copies as well. So using music and how you can get into that the mode of minimalism, or really understanding minimalism is a kind of another job. It will take years to understand it. It's almost like a kind of, I felt it's a kind of it cannot be taught, but I imbibed it through experiencing or working and again. And when I closed eyes, I realized there is a kind of blindness, that blindness and braille become a helping tool for me to create a lot of my later period of work. So understanding darkness, understanding light within the darkness itself, and then that's how it was started. In 1992, there was a show called it's called A Museum. A Museum was one of the most talked about exhibitions ever, I would say. And it was great to see that, like in Jahangir Art Gallery, I had, I was using poetry, but it's not really readable poetry. I used calligraphy with the sulfuric acid, light sulfuric acid, and created books. It's a kind of that process of making books, and in time to time, it's really that that text become abstracted by itself. So this is Ranjit Hoskote's and Masood Saad's poems I used, and Ranjit himself titled that as a kind of a museum. And I used to hang around with Ranjit and young contemporaries like that, and used to go to his home, walking around in Car Road, and talking about art or listening to his poetry, or I was talking about art, and it was a kind of real great time in the 80s, end of 80s and 90s beginning. So sorry about this terrible photographs or slides. Those period of time, we used to, I didn't have the funds to make all this kind of stuff, but I used to borrow a lot of money from believers, people who used to trust me, like a galleries like Merchandani, Shirin Gandhi used to give me a lot of funds to make my art, and Pandol, Dadiba Pandol. I cannot forget all these people. There were a lot of so many people, and artists like Melly Gobai given me 50,000 to make this project happen, and there were like frames and things like that. And another collector friend of mine, uh, Jahangir Nagri, given me a studio space to work when I was chucked out of JJ School of Art. I was rusticated in 1992 from JJ because I critiqued the institution during the time of, there was Sabmat exhibition I was organizing. Sabmat was, they had 300 small scale paintings and 20 huge banners painted by great artists from all around India. So this was that period of time. There was an interview taken by Namita Devidayal. Now presently she's a novelist and writer. She's written about my small interview, but this was a kind of critique of the institution. I was saying that we don't have a photography studio. We have incredible studio spaces, large scale, but like the materials, the foundries, all those kind of things, when we look at it, it's really still our kids are taking hammer and stone and working on it. So anyway, we were never reached that contemporary schools of looking at how we should practice. But JJ, one thing was good, that like everybody skilled artists used to come up, but like later period they started crying, because they didn't know how to take it up contemporaneity from the traditional practices. So that I would say that like, sorry again about these terrible slides. That's about 16 feet long, Venetian blinds painted. Venetian blinds I used because it's a kind of 180 degree or 360 degree of, you can turn around and like both the sides and three. And there was a truckload of books. I have kept it as a kind of, when I was looking at the books, it is from the Mumbai itself has given me that kind of inspiration, like Mumbai streets, like at the when you go from BT stations to Jahangir side, right hand side, you find at the Flora Fountain a lot of books on the streets. And people who have been sitting on books, which I felt it's almost like Samuel Beckett's time. There is an absurdity on sitting on books, and also the impermanency of that knowledge. So I was working on that. A museum show was about impermanency, nothingness, no thing, nothing. These are kind of absurd words I have put together in that little catalog. And also this the catalog was designed by Bharti Kapadia and her friend, and then there were posters. There were my friends like Rajendra Kapse helped me to bring T-shirts. There were T-shirts I given gift as a kind of whomso visited that space. It was crazy that like even the catalog given it as a kind of free gift to people. So this kind of, and hundreds of people visited, and it was really kind of admiring moments I had with. So this little Lilliput books, and like it's kind of almost like mummifying mummifying, knowledge. That is one of the reason I started working on it. But later period, I was really, in some ways, I was a little bit of ashamed. I have done this work, like not ashamed, but like I felt that, my God, 20 years ago, John Latham has done something. When I received an award to travel to UK in 1993, I visited Listen Gallery, and the director showed me, after showing my slides, said, small little minimalistic work as well as this book work. When the director brought me a book and showed about John Latham. While I was working in my studio space was given by Jahangir Nagri in Mahim. So as I mentioned, when I was rusticated, like there were people like Mahindra Doshi gave me a place to stay in Bridge Candy. I was staying in Bridge Candy, and I was working in Mahim studio, and Jahangir Nagri's blessings, I had that place. And then Jahangir mentioned to me, there are many people are working on books. So I was not really familiar about it. So I told him that I'm not really bothered, because I'm not really familiar about it. So, but later I got to know that. So looking at John Latham, and this was in Sakshi Gallery in Bangalore. I think it is Ravi Kumar Kashi is looking into this. I'm showing Pina Bausch because I felt after watching during my college days at JG School of Art, I visited this Pina Bausch's play. I remember going to see this play with Ranjana Marchandani and an old friend, Jahangir Jani. And I felt that this is the complete art form. Like this performance of Pina Bausch taught to me how it can be done, lighting, how it can be done, theater, performances, installations. Like it's almost like a magical creativity. So that's one of the reason I'm showing this. These flowers are all vanished in a few seconds of performances. So it's kind of incredible design. And also, before Pina passed away, I met her, because it was her last play. Talvin Singh, my dear friend, musician, Talvin, given music, and Talvin was also happened to be in Mumbai that period of time. So and Pina worked very closely with Chandralekha, and the two legends. I still remember Pina's, you can check it out. Pina's, Wim Wenders, I think, created a fantastic film on Pina. The 90 Warhols. In the future, everyone would be famous for 15 minutes. I think this is an important statement nowadays. With your Instagram and things like that, it's you maybe 3 minutes. 3 minutes of fame you can talk about. Like, but this legend, I would say that I was really impressed by his nature of associations with his contemporaries, like musicians, filmmakers, um, or writers, Basquiat, or Francesco Clementi, all these kind of relations with the contemporaries, helping each other. And his studio was known as Factory. It's interesting to see how great minds, so for me, that moment, like nothing is, I would say that I would say that you live that 3 minutes of or 3 seconds of your life. 15 minutes of fame is not important. I think working is I think it is important to know about the contemporaneity and time, how others are also practicing, give others an opportunity at your studio. And I had great time in Mumbai, because a lot of my contemporaries and senior artists used to give me that kind of opportunity, like Agropadam Sri Lakshman Shrestha, to Prabhakar Barve used to come home, and I used to go to his little home in Kurla, and living with Sudarshan Shetty at his Chinchpur Clay studio, learning from listening to other people more than I used to talk. But I used to fight a lot with the Sudarshan, and visiting other artists. So here it is in 93. There's also a destiny, Mrs. Prema Srinivasan of TVS Group, and a friend, put together a show in Chennai. That's the time, Premaji introduced me to Andrea Anastasio. And it's also, I got to know about the design world through Andrea Anastasio, I would say, more seriously than, previous years. I got to know about Memphis group of designers, through him. Then I was chatting with Ajit Rao and, other people, really understanding what is Memphis group and Etrosachas and great architects like that. And then association, also 94, we done a show together in Bombay called Objects of Attention. This is from I'm not talking about analyzing about the artworks, but this is all furnitures are created for an exhibition. Akbar Padamsi suggested my name for an exhibition called Circling the Square, organized by Sonal Motla and Abhay Mangaldas and friends. It was eight Indian contemporary artists, and I was the youngest in that period of time, created a furniture. It's like, I was talking about the absurdity and, sitting on books. So this book, actually, Mr. Harsh Goenka collected this first work, and then the second is the right-hand side work is collected by Anuradha Singhania. So, I mean, so the furniture is also, maybe that's like earlier days, when I was a child, I used to go to my dad's, my father's furniture shop. I have designed even chapels and, like all that kind of stuff, so very much interested in from the design aspects of it from the beginning itself, so it was. And when I talk about Mumbai, or what you've done, like what has inspired you to do things from Mumbai? Mumbai for me is almost like hundreds of universities or thousands of millions of universities within one space itself. That urban space, this tiffin carrier or dabbawalas, they played an important role in my career. Like it talks about survival. It talks about Mumbai spirit. So I used tiffin as one of the most important element in my project in 1994 onwards. And 1995, I've done a large project called Objects of Attention. This was traveled to, with Andrea Anastasio. I've done this project in Mumbai, but later period traveled to Delhi. And in between, I've done another project inspired from Chair, Sanctum Sanctorum, the central part of it, exhibited in 2 gallery spaces in Mumbai. One was in YB Chavan Center gallery space in Mumbai, and Lakiran used to run by this young period, Dr. Asha Lokhandwale. Asha opened her gallery in the 2000 plus or something, and I've shown. Sorry, that's like this show was in 95. At her space, and later period she went to study, and then later she started her gallery in South Bombay. But it was an interesting place, a small place. I remember many of the young artists used to show. That's the way Dandy was exhibited, and there were a lot of critical writings about me that period of time. Ranjit also critiqued he didn't see that show, but he critiqued on that project, I think. This was in Delhi, Objects of Attention. Ranjit's written the text for this, but it never produced a catalog, which I didn't have, like that kind of backing. I never represented a gallery, but I used to, like many of the young artists doesn't know how to represent a gallery. So there are no education institutes also never taught these kind of stuff. So I learned it by myself, how to install an artwork or how to do my own things, like I I really believed in the professional way of putting up artwork. It's just a sanctum sanctorum, and the using of materials, what kind of material you using for, or objects you using or picking up for each project is an important thing. And that's how it was worked. In 1996, I received an award to travel abroad. I was in USIS award, called Mid-America Arts Alliance. So this award was one of the finest award I received so far. I could travel, visit artist studios, museums, and 45 days of residency in Sausalito in San Francisco. Why I am showing this image is an important thing. I feel each and every travel I met some fantastic people. So the one was Joseph Kossuth, the other one, Frank Stella, then Linda Banglis, Frank O'Gary, this great architect, at his studio in Santa Monica. And all these things, I requested in USIS people. I have given them a list of names, and they said, these people are living in different locations. So, and I said, whatever possible, I would like to visit them. So they organized most of them. I had a chauffeur, a great poet, Kerry Keys. So we traveled together. He drove me down from LA to San Francisco, beautiful drive. And then, talking about music, or, or attending some great shows. And, Francesco Clemente taking me to see, Diminishing's first solo show at Gagosian in, I think it was in '96. So I was there for the opening. So it was looking at, Roy Lichtenstein outside Gagosian Gallery, and, other people, meeting great names, visiting their studio was amazing. Why I'm showing this, Kossuth gifted me this book, After Art After Philosophy and After, which this book is in the Kochi Pepper House residency place, library place. I kept it. This conceptual artist told me about a person who is in India in 1996. He moved to India. His name is Peter Nagy. So he asked me to meet Peter. And so when I came back, also interesting to say, the same day I was visiting the Whitney Museum. And Whitney Museum, I was opening a book, and I'm crazy about books. So I bought that book, but I was just browsing through the books, and I saw Peter Nagy standing in front of Chennai's one of the temple, and his work was collected by Dakishanu, a great collector. And these, this kind of destinies, or getting to know people from one to the another, because you're passionate, then, things will happen on your way, but you have to work, So this also, I met this another great mind, Tom Marioni. Visiting at his studio was also interesting. Looking at Tom Marioni dictionary, also conceptual, one of the finest conceptual artists. The act of drinking beer with friends is the highest form of art. I believe this from the beginning of my career itself in Mumbai. I had that opportunity with the great minds in India. And also I used to organize that stuff in my little rented flats in Mumbai. So this project is about 26 poets from Kerala and Mumbai. So 13 poets from Mumbai, like Namda Dasal to Dilip Chitre to many others. It's kind of hand painted, hand drawn, and also a little bit of history of. It's almost like it's called Persistence of Memory. This was the show, was part of this Delhi Nature Morth. Nature Morth didn't have a place. Peter used to rent out places, So it was in the place called. I've forgotten the name. So when it comes back, I'll tell you. You know, opening day, my work wasn't arrived, you know, so I was, my work went from Mumbai to, and it is stuck in some of the borders there in Delhi, and then after 2 days, it arrived. The show was with 3 people, Linda Banglis, one of my favorite artists, you know, Linda Banglis, Lyndall and Charles Brown, an Australian couple, used to be residency artists at Sanskriti Kendra in Delhi. So I was also a Sanskriti Kendra residency artist. And we had this show in 97. And so it was really, you know, Peter organized the second, you know, party for that opening, you know, so it's kind of meeting Peter in 96, coming back from US, and, you know, the scale is also important. I think, you know, like artists never used to, you know, like in the 90s beginning, you know, I've seen only Vivan Sundaram is done large scale project, and 95, 96, you know, you know, Paper Moon, a fantastic show by Sudarshan Shetty, and then later Atul and many others, you know, moving into installation mode and things like that, you know, earlier only small scale paintings and whatever. So this was a project, you know, before going to London. I've done a project called Field Sakshi. Sorry, again, it's horrible pictures, you know, so hundreds of work I created, serigraphs, you know, it's kind of Field Sakshi means it's almost like a war images collected, and, you know, serigraphy, silk screens, and so red and black kind of thing. It's a kind of colorful. It was not a crying kind of atmosphere I created. It was almost like celebration of war, you know, of the capitalist. Capitalists always look for, you know, their investment is, you know, they make countries to invest. You know, for example, India is investing almost 50 billion for protecting our country, and China invested 100 or 250 billion. So those kind of stuff. Anyway, this capitalism, and don't ask me about America. America has been, you know, they're, so that's the details on canvas, and, you know, serigraph on canvas. And there's another show called Memo, you know, Trans Memo.
നിങ്ങൾ പൊടിയാണ് ബോസ്. ബോസ് നിങ്ങളുടെ പൊടിയാണ്, നമുക്കൊന്നും പറയാനില്ല. നിങ്ങളെ സെരിയോഗ്രാഫ്.
Hello, who is that? This was in Rotunda building of that you know, NGMA, and it's like in, if it was a professional gallery, you could paint that space, you know. Here it is, I had to paint canvas and, you know, almost like hung this stuff. So there is no professionalism so far we haven't brought into any kind of institutions. It was so difficult to put together a project, you know, and no patronage. Of course, you know, I had to shut down my show for 2 days because I didn't pay this bill for that, making it happen. And there are 6 sculptures. These sculptures are also inspired from the Mumbai streets and railway stations, you know, people sleeping, the migrants and workers sleeping on the, you know, it's late night life. I have experienced all those kind of things. The photographs assemblages on the wall is, I've taken this rotunda space, conceptually it is almost like Mumbai is like a kind of island, using blue as a kind of a note. And, you know, people's working hands of the people was photographed, and, you know, like it was pasted on that canvas, and there is serigraphy and, you know, like pasted and design things like that. In 1999, I went to London. You know, I received a Charles Wallace scholarship to study in UK. I didn't want to study, actually. I really wanted to experience the cities and the contemporary art world. But I knew about this man called Michael Craig Martin. I was quite well aware of, international art as well as Indian. And Michael Craig Martin left when I reached UK. I mean, he left Goldsmiths College. Because of him, I applied for Goldsmiths College. And his disciples, I won't say disciples, his friends like Diminishing or his contemporaries made British art in the 20th century or big end of 20th century, made British art. Almost like 2 decades of great art was produced because of his pedagogy. And like in India also, you can see some of the artists like under or being with Ghulam Mohammad Sheikh or KG Subramaniam and A Ramchandran. I've been seeing a lot of influences of such great minds, and Sharat Maharaj was my mentor, and he who introduced me to the greatest people in the art world. Like he himself is a university, I would say. And then he introduced me to Nikos Paparkyriadis, Hans Ulrich Obrist, Charles Rechet, and many others who came for my tutorial because of great minds like Sharat Maharaj. And when I came back to India in 2001, I was quite disappointed. I was staying in Dehisar with my other colleagues, other friends, TV Sandosh, Riaz, and other people, so those people are also really helped me to survive or sustain in this city. So I produced this work, and this is graphite. Everything is graphite, and the 94 portraits of 94 artists, living artists from all around India. I traveled, most of them. 95% of the portrait have taken. I'm not a great portrait artist or photographer, but taken this, but it's all hand painted on human head size and 9-inch by so graphite on graphite frames, graphite drawing, so that kind of thing, and 10 portraits of abstract artists. So that was kind of, so I realized in my life extremities coexist, so that is learned it from Kerala itself. It's amazing. This is also later period you understand what is minimalism, what is maximalism or extremism in art making, or expressionism in art making. So when we look at Kathakali or Theyyam, especially Theyyam or murals of in Kerala, it's almost like you cannot really make out forms. There's a kind of celestial, colorful, expressionistic. Like even if this Mohiniyattam is the costume is really minimalistic in some ways. Of course, there are pleats and decoration and things like that, but it's very minimalistic way it has been handled. But the expressions of the Mohiniyattam dance is really maximalist kind of stuff. So it's kind of, and also looking at day-to-day, mundu and veshti is a very minimalistic thing of Keralites, and the food. If you take cuisine, puttu or Italy, I look at it as a kind of minimalistic stuff. So I when I was in Goldsmiths College, my tutor, Michael Craig Martin, I invited, it was a kind of one-to-one conversations about my work, and he told me that, Bose, you're going in a very good direction, but you have to get into that extremity of what you're doing right now. So, and he was giving the example of a figurative or a narrative art painter, Vermeer's painting. Vermeer's painting, how Vermeer has been taken the level of extremity in that painting. And I was really thinking about it. So how I can get into the extremities of painting? Of course, in abstract painting, Jackson Pollock is completed his abstraction, but what I can offer is a kind of maximum color, maximum texture, maximum form, and these kind of stuff. Of course, unknowingly or knowingly, you are also making um, contradictory statement within the work itself, because there is no composition in a complete Jackson Pollockian work, but there is composition or colors. All this comes as a kind of momentary, really fast. I produce each work, otherwise this freshness won't come. So it's a kind of action oriented painting, so I created these kind of work, and also at the same time, portraits of people of Mumbaikar, so it's a pen and ball pen drawing on canvas is 6 feet by 6 feet. This was quite a lot I have done. So in minimalism, as I was mentioning earlier, the Braille language, Braille, so it's kind of really an important element in my projects. So it's minus plus minus equal to plus. We don't have much time, so I just run through minimalism, architecture. When I learn things from architecture as well, I don't give up. I'm not just a painter. I believe in everything can be art, everything could be art. So that kind of belief I have. I look at tasteful architecture. I look at aesthetically how even a fork or a mic or your costumes are designed. So these things are important for me. It's kind of in Bowery, in the central part of that Bowery, there's a minimalistic building is planted by this Japanese architects. It's great design. It's really a kind of so that's another example. It's kind of juxtapositions of minimalism and life itself. Patrick Blanc is the first inventor of vertical garden. In 2009, New York Time, Time magazine come up with 100 great inventions. This was one of them. The right hand side, the green vertical garden is created by, he used felt and other materials, but we had invited him to be in Kerala for research during judicious period of curatorial time, and then we organized a talk at St. Teresa's College by Patrick Blanc. A biologist invented this vertical garden, more than 200 varieties of species, and the other side is kind of very minimalistic, rusted iron kind of places. It's perforated on a heritage kind of building. So it's kind of heritage, and so that juxtaposition really, as a kind of as an artist, I looked at it, which I learned it from my life itself. So India became people started talking about art markets. So I was, in a way, this is a 15.5 feet canvas, oil and acrylic. It's a kind of erasing method I use to make this happen. I put completely black surface on so I erase it with razor blade, and then and it's also this is a kind of assembles of different gallery spaces. I shot these people, and there is no gallery as such like this, but I have created a so kind of work. Nowadays we talk about augmented gallery, but here it is. I created this a long time ago. So it's kind of, again, it is like this music, senses, all these things used it in my work. It's almost like 15 years of my art career. I thought of making it as a kind of semi retrospective of my artwork, but it was in retrospective. I recreated all the works and what I have done from 1989 onwards, so it's kind of music of the cubes, that then onwards, using end is the origin is the end, and ups goes stretched bodies, and there's the books work, and this friends in neo-realistic European drink, the liberalization, in 90s beginning, liberalization happened, and like all the music world, and the first ghetto in Bridge Candy, going with my architects friends like Nuru and Shantanu Parodi, or Sudarshan Shetty, or other friends, meeting with the pentagram, our colleague, he studied in JJ School of Art, and visiting this. So it was great to have, and these images are also taken from, one side is myself, and the central panel is myself, Atul Dodia, Sudarshan Shetty, and Ajit Rao, and one side is, so it's kind of nostalgia in some ways, just a position, it's used from Apu Sensor's one image from Satyajit's film. It's a really large canvas, about 15.5 feet long, and yeah. So this, again, I was talking about the philosophy of juxtapositions of extremities, coexist kind of thing, or or within that space itself. Jahangir is another horrible place. You look at the floor, that itself is, this is the thing, an interior designer or an architect friend is listening to it. It is important to have false walls, how you can create, how minimalistic you can be created a floor. Usually the floor should be grayscale. It's not like this zebra lines and things like that, I think. So and hanging an artwork is with thread and things like that. That's another way of unprofessional way of putting up artworks. So we don't have freedom to do what you really like to do as an artist. How to present an artwork is really difficult to do it in public spaces like this. This is only, Jahangir is a good place. That's only large space we have it in Mumbai, and of course we have another horrible space is NGMA with a lot of railings and things like that. Sorry, being a critic of that kind of architecture. I love the architectural space, but this circular spaces always kills when you create artwork. This is the, as I was talking about, the tiffin career is in my life. It's one of the icon I used to do. And I opened the belly of the tiffin career, and there is a lot of narrations or testimonies done, taken interviews, and it is running in a loop. 108 LCD monitors used it in this installation work, and different places, different way I have exhibited and designed it. First I designed it like a bogies, how the length of a train boggy, and so I wanted to really have that chaos, the cables running through the strap hangers in the train, and it's almost like a kind of a slaughterhouse. When you travel in Mumbai, you know about it, how it is like. So this was exhibited in many museum spaces, gallery spaces. It was started from Mumbai's this place called Kitab Mahal, and then went to New York and Milan, Lille, in France, and then Singapore. In India itself, there are 3-4 places. Venice, it was in the collateral. So those are different places. This was in London, Icon Gallery space. It was a kind of, I created a circular thing, and then you get inside. So it's kind of hundreds of different kind of noise. This testimonial, dialogues in between you could hear. So there's 108 portraits. This is daily visitors at my studio. It was conceptualized in such a way that I've shot these people's photograph, and that's how it was installed. And in this period of time, I was thinking about, I've been in between collecting art, young artists to all kinds of artists, like not necessarily young, but whatever I liked. And I was thinking of creating a museum in Kerala. And I bought a property in Kerala, and then inspired from the Kerala architecture and temple architecture and open air theater. But like 3/4 of the gallery spaces or museum spaces below the ground I was creating, and outside, so it's kind of this become a ghost, and I created as a kind of show called Ghost in London. It was part of it, it's kind of using that thin layer of transparent skin to see that ghost, but you cannot really read what is a ghost within. So we never seen ghosts. That is one of the reasons I called this show as also Ghost. Ghost is also a scary one, but it also sometimes surprises you. So using this understanding minimalism and maximalism, that's the context I used all my projects. In ARCO 2009, I was invited to curate. I was invited to curate this project, India Pavilion. India was the guest country, and it was inaugurated by the Queen of Spain. So I have, especially this is not my design, but I have especially designed that gallery spaces for 13 galleries from India. And I was not curating artists, but I have suggested artist names to the galleries, sorry. So there, and this period was quite crazy, and there was no, like the economy was going really bad, and but Indian artists done quite well in that period of time. And I remember Vivek Vilasini's work was bought by the city of Madrid, and and then many other artists. Yeah. So it is one of the those period of time, this was one of the biggest art fairs in the world, and especially Latin American art. If you wanted to see, if you really wanted to see, the Latin American art, it was here in this Arco Madrid, and hundreds of thousands of people, amazing exhibition. So it was really good project we have done in Arco. So I have given you quite a lot of information. Information is not knowledge. Albert Einstein says that. But I believe in transforming into knowledge whatever information I received from life. And this with that, when I was studying, as I mentioned, when I was we never used to get great magazines, like Art Forum, or presently you have Eflux, and many. Just giving you an information about the toilet paper is another critically interesting, tank another. So there are so many great third texts. If you are academically looking at October is another great one. So anyway, a book read by 1,000 different people is 1,000 different books. But it is important to give that perceptions of so I have like what was lacking in my period of time. I thought I'll share it with my people. Then I thought of temporality is an important aspect when you create a museum or a library. So whatever it is permanent, whichever place it is, it almost like it will become mausoleum kind of stuff. So I created this temporary library, a laboratory of books. It's called LAVA, Laboratory of Visual Art, which was traveling from, it was started in Bombay and then went to Baroda, Delhi, Kolkata, Bangalore, Kochi a couple of times, and then Mumbai 2-3 times. So different locations. So wonderful to see this. I have this personally picked up. Nowadays you can get everything on your um, you know you can Google it and get it. But those period of time, it was awesome to see how kids were enthusiastic to get to know about. The books were not really kept chronologically or archived. I really wanted, somebody is interested in art, they look at architecture. That architects look at, talk about maybe film or something like that, or photography. So these, in that context, I put together, even the furniture is some modular furniture designed for these exhibition, which was traveled to all the cities. I bought a couple of trucks to make this happen on the roads and villages I wanted to send, but those things I have sold to, really wanted to make the Binale happen. So in between, one of the property was sold, was this 2 trucks. And in between, I was looking at myself, and I feel that, there are many characters within yourself. Like I could associate with thinking of thoughts of Lenin. I could associate with Gandhi. I could associate with myself. But there are many other aspects. This was shown. It was a large 6 by some big canvas exhibited in Sakshi Gallery, and a long time ago, 2009, I think, or 8 or 10 or something. At the same time, I have created this gallery called BMB. One of my friend, Diya Mehta, and her mother called me up and said, they have a space in Fort. Used to have a small gallery space, and one side it was furniture. Then then they asked me to associate. Then I said, if the entire property is part of the gallery, we can think about it. Then I said, it would be nice to have a small cafe and a small bookshop, and then the gallery space. So then in that context, we have created a gallery called BMB, and people didn't know what it is called, what is BMB. But this place become an interesting location for many youngsters. I have showed 26 women artists. The first show was artists from 5 continents, curated by Mehrali. So it was really, my idea is almost like European football. Now we can call it IPL or whatever. So that period, bring the best artists, and show Indian artists along with the contemporary international practitioners. That was the idea how it was started. And so anyway, these works are all from Sujit. Am I late?
I think, yeah, you have.
How
many slides are left?
Very few. Yeah.
Yeah, then it's done. Yeah, then it's fine.
What's the time now?
6:15.
Okay. I'll rush
10
through.
more.
This was
Yeah,
a
10 more
show,
minutes.
the philosophy I already discussed. So I'm not talking about the art. This was in 1 by 1 gallery in Dubai. And this was in Bombay, Bodhi, which was closed. Also traveled to different cities. It was shown in Amsterdam as well as in the so in 2010, thought of the Kochi Biennial Foundation in 2009, and then we have created the project 2010 onwards. We have this biennial, biennial I can go on talking about, that we already, people are very much aware of it. So we are working towards the 5th edition of the biennial. So the state is one of the major supporter of the biennial. I believe that, this is the only state, I think, really invested in culture. Economy, there is economy behind everything, as well as through the culture. I would say it is important to adapt. So there are so many great stories we can go on talking about it, like so many artists. And from the Kochi Biennale, this Incheon Biennial originated when I was giving a talk in Tokyo at the CIMAM conference, the annual conference. One of the Chinese museum person asked me to curate, looking at Kochi's projects. That's how it was originated, and I had great artists. In 6 months' time, I have done an awesome show. I have young people who have been working with me, like Jaisal Tucker, Nitika, Matthew, and Manoj Nair. All of them put together. Manoj put together a fantastic conference, a 2-day conference. I had artists like Yoko Ono, and sorry, this is about the Kochi. Like people like Glenn Laurie believes that a landmark, even the contemporary art world, and Anish Kapoor, all these so many great names. This is in Incheon. It's my works on graphite. This is the last project I would like to talk about. I was, I haven't done major shows in, 2010 onwards to, 2019. So this was, of course, I've done a couple of small shows in Bangalore and in Bombay, but this was an important project for me. It is called the Mirror Seas, West in the Dark. And I believe, this project is all about obsession towards, how people are obsessed with the things, so, and this using materiality is also important, this project. Each project I can go on talking about, but these God, casteism, religion, regionalism, racism, capitalism, nationalism, chauvinism, technology, narcissism, all these are the, take you to obsessive nature of each and every one, and it can take you to a kind of dangerous zone when you are obsessed by it. It is almost like you finding it after 2000 years or 5000 years later, you might find these kind of, this is also inspired from Chhatrapati Shivaji Vastu Sangrahalaya. Like when you go to a museum, you find the scriptures, and the scriptures are the representations of those period of time. So I thought I use this as a kind of norms, and then created these works using symbols from Indian Ashok Chakra, and like erasing the ribs from the center. So it's kind of lost its it's how it has been designed, this gallery. This gallery was almost like a white Cubian space, but I have designed in such a way that there's a kind of fluid nature this gallery could have it. This is one of the finest gallery spaces we have it in India right now. I mean, of course, I'm looking forward to seeing Kiranada Museum and other spaces. It's minimalist work, 10 commandments, 10 statement is, as I mentioned, God onwards narcissism is being written in Braille in 10 frames are there, but here it is. So even usages of colors also, that using graphite is an important element, the Braille, music, all this, and maximum craftsmanship, or that the hand carved. It's not a mold, it is all hand carved, and there is a kind of dangerous so below this work, and using mirror is for me is the ultimate receiver. Mirror is not a reflector according to me, it is a receiver. It receives everything in front of you, and it's almost like inhale and exhale. A mirror is almost like that. And religion, it's been the technology, some small technology used, but like using that the wallpaper is also designed by me, and which was printed, and wallpaper is that room itself is an important for me. Yeah, so the chaos, the beauty itself is chaos, and the text God being used in different material, used religion, all that. And so this is how sanctorum is being created, and so an interesting, great space created for that. Thank you so much. I showed you 108 slides. Thank you. And
thank you very much, Bose. Highly appreciate this very informative and very knowledgeable presentation. Yeah, information convert knowledge for many of us. Thank you very much. Can we take few questions if you don't mind?
Sure.
Okay, so a couple of questions which has come in chat. Shanti,
you
would
want
like
me to leave this? Want me to leave this?
Yeah, probably we can close the slideshow and yeah. So Shanti, you want to ask, or
can you take that off?
Yeah, I will do that.
Okay, right.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I asked my question before you mentioned the minimalism and maximalism, which kind of veers in your work. But still a part of the question that I'm very interested in, because you started off with JJ and there are those minimalistic, paintings, and then the contrast with your colorful work after that. A lot of the work is colorful, excepting the portraits that you make. So my question was, like, when you do portraits, they seem to be, from what I have seen, graphite, black and white. And what is it that caused you to make this, I don't know, hundreds of portraits at a time, whether it's of artists or visitors to your studio?
Can you just can
you not hear me?
No, can you repeat that?
No, it's like,
okay.
Sujit, you want to say, or
no, I can't. Even I can't hear properly.
Can you hear me
so
now?
you said that I have been creating hundreds of portraits, or what is
so your work veers between black and white and lots of color. So the minimalism, some part of it,
right.
You brought it up yourself. It's something
Right.
I noticed and I was intrigued with. And then there's also abstraction versus figurative.
Right.
So, like, what is it that drives you to suddenly make hundreds of photographs? You did lots of photographs of fellow artists, you said. Then you also had a phase when you did lots of photographs of visitors to your studio.
Yeah.
Which is very different from your work otherwise, although you're interested in people.
No, that's it's an important question. Also it's a kind of important in the sense that when we were studying, it is in the 80s and 90s, and every artist used to follow one style of working, and I always felt that I'm looking at life itself. It's not one direction. My directions, I can go into 360 degrees of direction. But like on the whole, as I mentioned, I believe that extremity coexists in my life itself, and also I could see it in the life around. And why only going into one direction? So, and I was looking at international practitioners, like the best example is when I visited in 1993, I received an award to travel to UK. Artist called Gerhard Richter. Richter's book is also curated, edited by Hans Ulrich Obrist. There was an exhibition of his works at Anthony Dioffé Gallery in London, which is closed now. I mean, Anthony Dioffé closed his gallery a few years ago. In 93, this, and also, you know, I was looking at Edward Rouchet. All these people are, you know, art makers, but they haven't really followed one direction. When they feel like, you know, even in that book, Daily Practicing of Painting, of Gerhard Richter's book, you know, like when you look at it, he's done, whenever he feel like painting, he's painted abstract. He painted, you know, um, conceptual work, as well as, you know, pixelated paintings. Pixels also, I would say pixels also almost like invented by him, you know, as an artist. So there is no need to, you know, like this one style of, you know, this is the first thing was asked by a collector. Maybe, you know, most of the time collectors, they would like to have certain series of paintings. They never like an artist jumping from one to the another. So I was never interested in this kind of collector's point of view. I was interested in taking, if I feel like painting abstract, I would do that. If I conceptually, I feel that it is important to bring the Dabawala as a kind of iconic figure, I brought them into, you know, for me, in that context, I've taken it up. So the conceptual art really played an important role into, you know, channelizing my perception, you know, I would say.
That wasn't really what I meant. What I meant is, like, was there some motivation for you to do all these artist portraits you traveled?
Now that, you know, like when I was thinking about curating, you know, the 94 portraits I have done, you know, I was really fed up of seeing Indian curatorial work when I came back, you know. So why not, you know, just, I was not really critically curating the whole project. I was looking at artists who contributed, or artists who are practicing day to day in the contemporary art world. I have taken their photograph and put together, you know, they also approached one of my friend to put together their bio and things like that, but unfortunately it was not well done. So this was in a way that it was called decurating, you know. So it was a critique of the curating in those period of time, I feel, you know. So yeah.
Thank you. Ashish Motwani, would you like to ask?
Yes, sir. I have a question. That, sir, the thing is that when you are drawing something and when you are painting something, so how do you collect your imageries, and how you used to decide before making that what you have to draw?
There are two ways, you know. When I do abstract work, I don't plan anything, you know, like
Okay.
it's at that moment itself. Even accidents are really important when you do that abstract, you know, stretched body series. Even the stretched body series, you know, like that, as I mentioned, needs to finish it very fast as well. So I make about 40 to 50 different kinds of shades of color, and then from the first batch, it's almost like a fluid manner. It constructs the entire area. So it will be finished in, whether it is a large size or small size, it doesn't matter. I needs to finish it soon. The other way, you know, like if I'm doing a portrait, that is really a conscious approach, you know. I'm doing a portrait. So there is mathematics into it. There is what size of a frame, why am I using certain size of a canvas. This is all conceptual framework. I think about it. Yeah.
Okay. So one more thing, like how you decide that you have to make installation, or you have to do this with the paint, or you have to use that carving thing. So how you decide these things?
There's a lot of process behind each project, like you can see the maturity. I'm not saying that you've seen all the horrible frames on which that there's a kind of consistent way I've been doing different kinds of stuff. So uh, there's a lot of process behind each project. When I was looking at the present situation in India, we are all talking about secularism. So what are the issues of secularism? Is in our nation, is there, why people are so nationalistic? Is the same nationalism was in 1940s? The 1940s was extremely different than the present nationalism. These are the kind of thoughts, why it is happening, why people are so obsessed by religion, why people are so obsessed by the color of your skin, why people are obsessed by themselves, narcissism. Technology also, becoming almost like kind of obsession. So we need to, whatever I would like to give an advice that, whatever you love, you keep little distance to see that, like if you, I mentioned many times to a lot of my students, friends, if you really want to see your palm, you need to keep your palm little away to see your palm, right? You cannot see your palm like this, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes.
that if you really love something, you keep little distant. Even the human relationship, whether your girlfriend or your wife, I think, differences are there, differences of opinions are there, but perceptions are there. But it is always beautiful when you turn around and see. So always looking back is an interesting aspect to whether you're making art or whether you, when you live, look at your life itself. I learned it from my life. When I broke up my relationship with the girl, I realized why it happened. I felt that, like I was so obsessed by her, I wanted to see her, I wanted to talk to her each and every moment. Where are you? What you doing? And all that kind of nonsense. When it is broke, you realize this, you give space what you love to, if you love something, the same thing about art. I would say, if you really like art, you give little bit space for art also. You should listen to some music, you come
Yes,
back,
sir.
there are many other ways of doing it.
Yes,
I
sir.
think we
Yes,
know.
I got it, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So your your abstraction is more like a accidental based. Like you are more like an intuitive style of making. But don't you see, or you never seen other side also, like the Joseph Albers sort of the painters who carefully choose the color, and then they build the this, because
So
you
it's
never done that.
this is all thought of it, like as I mentioned, like Agnes Martin, when she's done
Yeah.
that graph kind of stuff, that was the most minimalistic stuff I have seen it. My case is almost like a kind of enlightenment when I use braille. Braille is actually, it's a language. uh, you know uh, I the language, and there is a kind of contradiction, like it's also kind of, you cannot really touch what I'm making. I'm, brailleist, you need to experience the surface, and you need to read, right? A braille language, you need to, when you're creating art, you cannot really touch and read, right? So these it's also, Albers is done in a very different minimalistic manner, right? My minimalism is a kind of language of senses. In some ways, I learned it from nature itself. When a leaf or a petal falls from and a tree, it doesn't fall just like this. It has its own, what's this kind of surrounding. it falls, it moves, it comes, there is a kind of music everywhere. There is a kind of senses. So I'm interested in that senses. The senses are also accidents, like it's a kind of glitters, also you look at the sky, in dark skies you can find stars. The stars are also, it's not necessarily, it's kind of mathematically created. It is, of course, there is mathematics. That is why the universe is in a way sustaining, right? I cannot give you a proper answer to it, but I believe that, every artist, Albers is, I never followed Albers. Of course, I have collected one of his work from a Dutch gallerist. But this kind, that minimalism we understand, but I was never followed that minimalism.
That's cool.
In fact, I follow great architects minimalism, like Tadao Ando, or Sana, that minimalist architecture they have created.
Yeah.
So it is important, any kind of minimalism. I'm not saying that, I'm really open to all kinds of learning. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Hello, sir. I'm Jagesh.
Hi, Jagesh.
Okay. എനിക്കൊരു ഞാൻ മലയാളത്തിൽ സംസാരിക്കാം. ഞാൻ വളരെ ഇതായിട്ട് ഒരു പെയിന്റിങ്ങിലേക്ക് വന്നത് എന്താണ് ഹോർഡിങ് ചെയ്യുക അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ബോർഡ് വരക്കുക അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഇതിൽ പെട്ടിട്ടാണ് വന്നേക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ എനിക്ക് ചിത്രം വരക്കുക എന്നുള്ളൊരു ചിന്ത മാത്രമേ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നുള്ളൂ ആ സമയത്ത്. അപ്പൊ ഈ സമയത്തും ചിത്രം ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ചിത്രം വരക്കുമ്പോൾ വളരെ എൻ്റെ ഇൻഡിവിജ്വൽ ആയിട്ടുള്ള പേഴ്സണൽ ആയിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ മാത്രമാണ് ഞാൻ വരച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. അതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് എങ്ങനെയാണ് അത് നമ്മളുടെ ഒരു ഈ കറണ്ട് സിറ്റുവേഷനിൽ എങ്ങനെയാണത് നമുക്ക് അത് പ്രസന്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നത് എന്നുള്ള കാര്യത്തിൽ സാറിൻ്റെ ഒരു കാര്യം പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ മനസ്സിലാവും.
എല്ലാം പേഴ്സണലാണ്. പക്ഷെ public, when it comes to, I'll speak in English because, like he was asking about, he come from a background of, you said hoardings or hoarding painting, and then now he's really, his projects are all personal kind of, I think, that's the way. I think, like I also do personal stuff, but, reading it in a different manner. It is, you really, you need to have a kind of, social, I am a social animal. Social in the sense, I would say it is part of, sociology is part of it. Politics is part of it, So I cannot escape politics. I cannot escape social life, and also I cannot escape from that my surrounding, the family. Like it's a kind of immediate family to extended family to the world family. So there is a kind of, we are all connected in some ways or the other. So but you need to understand who you are. Like you are saying that you're doing personal. I also thought, in early years when I was making, I'm doing great stuff. Later, when I look back, I don't really look at, personally, I don't like to look at any of my previous works. That's a personal way of, some people say that, like your art is like your baby. I don't have that kind of nostalgia, or I don't have that kind of romanticized idea of art making. I'm liberal in that sense, or I like other people's practices as well, So I think, you are in the right direction, but you need to be closer to the public as well, public spectrum. We are all part of the universe. It is, you are connected anyways, but even if you are not conscious, but you are really connected.
Okay, thank you.
Sabita, you want to ask something what you wrote? unmute. You to unmute.
Unmuted.
Hello. It was an awesome presentation, and I have been always a great fan of your works. My question is an extension of Shanti's and Ashish's question. I mean, like, it was, formed before the presentation got over. So you explained quite a bit about your work process. If you would like to add a little more in depth as to, what is the thought process that drives you to choose a particular work path for expressing your art? Because your art is so diverse in form, in material, in concept. So I just wanted to get that together, but you answered a lot of it in the process of your
you want to just focus on one project and ask me, like it's kind of varied. So so what?
Yeah. Now that you've answered Shanti's and Ashish's questions, I would reframe my question as to, would you be able to talk a little more on that last work, because that covers a lot of your ideologies.
Yeah, it's really looking at present political system. How as an artist, how you can critique the world, how you can see the world in that sense. And when you're thinking about a project like this, how many projects should be there? I went to see this place maybe 6 times before creating this project. That kind of dedication I have, like it is important that the site play an important role. I design my gallery space, how people move in a gallery space, I'm very much aware. So there is kind of designing a gallery or designing the location where you're keeping your art object is also important. What level, what height, there are numbers in each project. There are altogether I have done 9 projects, but each 9 projects also got 9 numbers or 10 numbers. There is 108 is also, there is a kind of why when curatorially or conceptually when you're working, the numbers play an important role. The size of a human size is 6 feet, and the eye level, all these things we need to, the details wise when you look at it. The exhibition, I'm talking about the exhibition, but the idea is originated because of, I was seeing every day, link, in UP or to Mumbai, everywhere, there is a horrible thing happening in our country because of religion. And for religion, and so many of my friends are from different religion, and but I have wonderful relationship with all these people. But when it comes to these obsession, like I know some of my friends goes to church with a certain kind of obsession. I need to be there by 10 a.m. In the same way, prayers, prayers is also programmed. I need to be 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. or whatever. There is a kind of obsession in everything. But while the same time you're losing out your other friends because of this obsession to yourself. You think you gain out of something of that obsession, but I think you are losing out in those every obsession, even the technology. When I was talking about, like Einstein was very much worried about these. He was a scientist, but he was also worried the same thing is happening nowadays. Like everybody's forgetting about their parents and like their kids. Day to day, every day you can hear the stories. Because you are obsessed by this little tool within your hand. That tool, I think, it is also, there is that is also, I think, we need to learn how to edit it, how to curate it. Like our home, we need to find there is a kind of structure. So my exhibition, present exhibition, is structured like a human body. One of the best example, or architects, I would tell architects, the best example is yourself. Your human body is a fantastic architecture itself. And if you understand the nature, a spider, how it moves, how it has been creating the web, all these kind of things you can relate with your life, but there are numbers, there are conceptually we need to think about why we are using certain materials for certain artwork. There is a movement called arte povera, for example. It's not a class I'm sharing. There are students I can see, that is why I'm talking about arte povera. Arte povera എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ poor materials കൊണ്ട് art ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു രീതിയാണ്. That was started in 1968. Still it is relevant, and great artists are also working with this using cheap material and how you can create art. So I think using materials, the scale of the work, all those things are important when you conceptualize a gallery project. If it is an exhibition, a group show, it is different, but there are so many things we can talk about it, yeah.
Was a small question. You have been talking about architecture quite a lot. So you have traveled a lot internationally too. So when you look at the aesthetics of Indian public spaces and the urbanization which happens here and how that affects the aesthetics, how much it is related to the Indian art? How much Indian art is influencing the Indian public space aesthetics, and compared to vis-a-vis what happens outside India, maybe Europe or some other place?
We can't, we cannot really compare anything from Indian context. I mean, like, what I can say that, we have amazing wealth, we have amazing culture. We didn't have urban spaces. It's the rural spaces developed into urban locations. The cities were, only one city. I mean, in Kerala, in Alappuzha is a designed city. The canals. In Chandigarh, it's a designed city. That you can make out in the difference in when you travel in Chandigarh. And unfortunately, there is, like Kerala architecture, or contemporary architecture versus traditional architecture. Like there is so many things you can talk about architecture. Like Rajasthan is almost like people talk about heritage places, or heritage places has lots of values as well. But how it is being protected in India, we have incredible wealth, but we haven't protected any of these things. We have Kerala architecture. When I look at it, it's so awesome. Looking at the climate, and it has been constructed, and the early Vastu Shastra is actually, I'm not talking about the Vastu Purushan, whatever, that but the central courtyard, and weather, lights, air circulation. What is an architecture? Basically understanding climate, and live almost close to the nature. So that kind of thing. You also think that I look at architecture in some ways that I am also one of the species, like a spider. I don't see myself as a special. The special thing is that you can talk and like talk to each other, understand, but I think we can go on talking about architecture for a long time. Like I cannot give you an answer, Satish, in few minutes, because I believe that there are so many great cities being created by cultures. When you travel abroad, culture is the main thing people talk about. It's nothing else. When you go to Barcelona, like it is known as the creative cities in the world, one of the best cities in the world. 15 best cities, creative cities selected by UNESCO. Why it is that, like when you land in Barcelona, the architecture of the of the airport itself is designed by Calatrava, one of the greatest architects. It's like almost like a sculpture. In Kerala, we have our airports, but it's kind of replicas of, or it's kind of clones of other buildings. It's not really, it doesn't have anything to offer and no character. Of course, that character is a familiar one. That is why the public like it. Public doesn't like to critique. Public always like familiarity. Like if you really want to entertain some people, that's the best way to do it. Public. That is why the difference in between commercial film and critically thinking filmmaking. The same way, architecture is also like that. Like a horrible architecture is being created in urban spaces in Kerala. A glass is not a material for, of course you can save cost, but but you're creating more carbon. It's not carbon free places. Like they've been, air conditioning is not at all a good thing for our nature, right? So, but like glass boxes, mirror boxes, and mirror reflects and reflects, and the heat is being created. All these things we should think about it. Like Kerala's nature. I mean, I think we need to be more organic and natural, sculpting kind of architecture should be there. Of course, you can also have vertical buildings. You can also have horizontal architecture as well. So both ways you can do it, but I think our education needed to be starts from home to our panchayat member, from panchayat member to the municipality to our even civil servants. I'm sorry, they are ignorant people. They have no idea about architecture. They talk about they know how to that, but there are some visionaries as well. I'm not saying all bureaucrats are idiots. It's, I would say that even the same thing about our ministers and people, MLAs, they have a responsibility. They need to know what is aesthetics and what is culture, what can be brought through culture, what can be like how you can develop our country or city or states with culture. I think this is to be taught, but it need certain kind of commitment towards that. Our commitment is to these are the places. If one person understand learned something from me, I'm blessed. That kind of thing, I believe. Yeah.
Thank you. Good message to especially administrators, especially when the local board elections are going on, right? Good message. Thank you.
There are a few questions.
Yes. Bose. Yeah, I'm Sabin here. I just want to know that when you came to like when you are coming from a very realistic work to a very abstraction. Very realistic work from, and then very abstraction. What do you feel like when and where you are getting the inspiration? Otherwise, the things from where you are getting the inspiration from. That is the one question, the prior question. And then you told about so many things about the Kerala scenario, that what we have all, like any artist we have faced in Kerala, it's not like that what you mentioned. I think like I had also conducted one event in Alapi. That's
I remember
yeah,
sand sculptures.
Yeah, sand sculpture. It's not at all done any prior to that. Even we are the first venture to do that kind of event in Alapi or whatever in Kerala itself. But we don't get any prior support from any government, or we got support from government. It's only from the mouth word. Okay.
Yeah.
We didn't get any financial or any support from the government or whatever.
So Sabin, can I interrupt? Can I interrupt? Because I know your frustration.
No,
I let me give you some anecdotes.
Okay.
The same thing. The same. I know that when we were thinking about, just connecting with when we were thinking about the Binale, what we had is kind of we had shoulders, which shoulders, or parallel thinking, or I could call up Mr. M.A. Baby, Miriam Alexander Baby, anytime in a day. Out of 24 hours, I can call him 3 a.m. I could call him and share the problem, and also he said once, even if we sell our property, we will make this Binale happen. That kind of confidence is given by then minister. All right. And that belief, that trust is everything, I know that why I go to Kerala, I spend a lot of money, while traveling to Kerala.
I'll tell you one thing, that it's almost forgotten, it's almost over, that it doesn't matter whatever it's happened. But do you think that these kind of activities still there is a chance to happen for a kind of people, those who are coming to this scene, those who are coming to collaborate, otherwise communicate, or otherwise happen, those who are trying to make happen this kind of event? Is it possible in this Kerala situation, like any political or any kind of scenario, is it possible to happen, or otherwise it is really committed to some kind of people, those who have those close to the government, or that kind of people? Otherwise, those who are trying to happen in this kind of, is it possible or not?
It is possible. It doesn't matter whether you're close or not. It doesn't happen from government side. You don't expect anything. I mean, your commitment is much more important. If you give up, everything is end there. If I back out from what I'm working on right now,
I don't think that
happen, right?
I don't think that it's not my own commitment that I am conducting those who are
why are you expecting things? Why are you expecting things?
It should be happen.
That is your desire. That is your wish.
No. It's not my own desire or something. Those who are one thing, that why the Binale or
Binale happened because of our commitment. We worked hard and we lost a lot of money as well.
The same kind of thing.
And I tell you, I told Mr. Umanchanti that, sir, if I, for 4 CR, I walked in that, I faced a lot of humility as well. I traveled almost 40,000 kilometers within that small, secretariat.
Bose,
from one table to the
other. Sabin, one second. Sabin, we can't make this a debate. You ask a question, And I think after that, he gives his answer. I think that finishes there. If you all keep on coming back to the same question, this will never end, right? A lot of other questions are also
Yeah,
coming.
it's okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
Give me a
No,
call,
otherwise,
Sabin. No.
no, boss. I'll ask you another question. Like, not another question. I just want to know, when I seen a lot of works from Bose, like, very realistic, like any portraits or, scribbling or scrabbing portraits from Bose. Like, in a canvas, Bose is applying in color, and then he just scratched off the color, and that kind of portrait I've seen. But how do you lead? Like, what kind of thing lead to you an abstraction from this realistic, very much realistic thing? What thing? What kind
I
of
have
thing?
mentioned many things, like, we never seen a ghost, right? We never seen a ghost, right?
Yeah, I never seen a ghost.
Same
like
thing, same thing,
yeah.
same thing. It's never understood the way needed to be understand something. It takes its process. You need to go through it. You need to go through the fire.
Yeah, might be.
Almost like,
but I love I love your colors. I love your colors.
like I love everything, whatever I do. I love talking. I love conversations. I know that what is, I also in between, like you, frustrated about bureaucracy. I am really frustrated about
No, it's not.
all those things are there. It's not easy to do things,
Yeah,
but
I know
it is
that.
easy
It's
to
okay. Yeah.
damage, easy to, I made a statement once in Bombay Times.
Yeah.
You can destroy me, but you cannot defeat me. My feet is, I have strong roots.
Yeah.
So you cannot defeat me.
No. I really love
I mean,
you.
I'm not talking about you, but I believe there are things will be, there are people in, not only my cases, many of my friends, they are all really frustrated when they think they have great ideas, but they cannot implement in our state. They cannot implement in their own life itself, so there are, it's some part it is personally created, some part it is public created. So we need to understand, that's what I was talking about. We need to understand the whole, and
yes,
then,
of course.
you have to be really, that is the job of a bureaucrat. What is bureaucracy, or a diplomat?
Yeah,
it's a diplomacy.
I don't think it's a job. It's
so,
our responsibility. It's not our job, I think.
It's
our
very
responsibility.
Can we move on?
to understand.
Sabin, Sabin, we have to move on. Thank you very much. I think Prajakta, you want to ask that question?
Prajakta, which project?
Our Prajakta, Prajakta, do you want me to ask? Can I ask, or will you? She's asking, can you talk about erasing in your realistic works? Erasing.
Where is the question? What?
It's in the chat.
Erasing.
I think she meant in one of the works.
Hello.
That's the way I make portraits. Some of the portraits I do, there are many ways you can do portraits. One is you add lines and lines and lines, right? And then make portraits. The other one is you are in a darker space. You created a darker space, and then you bring light within that darker space through erasing. Like a charcoal or a graphite paper, you put a total graphite, and then you bring light on that surface through erasing it or rubbing it. Through erasing, you can construct. There are two ways you can make portraits. One is sketching or building with lines. The other one is erasing lines, and then you can create. So that's both ways I create.
Thank you, Bose.
Because it's a practice, you know. Basically, what you're doing a portrait or it's actually there is mathematics within all the spaces, you know, where the light is falling, what angle it is falling. All erasing is also mathematics, you know, like so. You are a good calculator. You need to do good calculation while making sketches or whatever. That is what even 5-minute sketches I used to do it. It's immediate, you know, instant calculations of sketches, right? So that. Thank you, Prajakta. I can't see you.
Thank you, Bose. My video is off, dear. Yeah.
Okay, so one last question in the chat. Richie Bhatia, would you like to ask that? Richie Bhatia?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Hello, sir.
Where are you?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Firstly, I think this presentation was very motivating for somebody like me who's young into the art scene, but also at the same time when there are so many doubts about my own practice with regards to language. But my question is about how, in the times that we are living in today, how pressing it is to choose a proper language, and in a similar context, where do we situate the autobiographical practice, where I think a lot of onus is on the art because it's a reflection of the society. This is one question. And the second question is, when you said that you detach yourself from your work,
you know, Rishi, it's almost like
so
a
when
comment.
does
It's not a
that
question, no.
happen?
It's almost like a comment I felt. Yeah, it's very much
Sorry?
autobiographical. You said it is one base, it is autobiographical. The other is public. Can you?
No.
I felt it is almost like a comment more than a question.
No, I mean, I'm not
Richie,
commenting on your work.
yes.
I'm saying, no, I'm asking like a general question where, you know, how we term somebody's practice, that, okay, his or her practice is more to do with these issues or these areas. In the same way, how would you situate an autobiographical practice in the art scene that we are living in today? Is my question.
These are all my evidence. No,
Do I make sense?
that work itself is the evidence, right, Richie? You know, the work is whether it is direct or, you know, indirectly. You can have questions. You know, some works are direct, some of them are indirect. So some places, that's what I look at it. You know, you don't need to. Sometimes the answer doesn't have to be, or the questions doesn't have to be directly at the site you are working with or showing. As a contemporary art practitioner, where you are showing the project, when are you showing the project, and who are your public? These things are important, you know. So but I again, you know, like always I talk to students or friends that practicing is always important. You know, daily practices are important. That practices of, you know, conversations are important. The same way the conversations, the same time your hands, making as thinking, making you start thinking. You know, like as you take artists like Rabindranath Tagore, his scribbles turned out to be artworks. You know, his scribbles of corrections of his poetry or writings turned out to be. So there is a kind of transformatory method he used. The same way, while you practice any kind of things, you know, you every time you learn this. Learn, you know, I never used to speak like this, you know. It's every day through the conversation I'm learning. Through the conversation I'm trying to hear, I'm trying to learn, take it from you the same way I try to share it, the point of view, what I believe or what I learned from life, I'm trying to share. So I think practice and sharing equally important.
Okay, so we know there will be a lot of questions and a lot of people want to ask. Unfortunately, we really well ran out of time. So we have to close it at this point. For others who have, I think probably you can take it offline through mail or so. Thank you very much, Bose. Thank you very much for spending so much of time with us. It's already 2 hours, 15 minutes kind of stuff. And I know he has not stood up from that space and he was getting calls, and also I think we will call it a day at this point. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the participants who turned out. And I was just seeing in Facebook also, there are maybe more than 50, 100 people were watching parallelly there too. And then in the coming days, more and more people watch there on that platform. Anyway, I think it's great to have such sessions. It gives us a lot of energy. Thank you, Bose. Thank you, everyone else. We will see you all next week.
Thank you all.
Thank you both.
Good to see
Thank
all
you.
of you.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Vani.
Thank you both. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.